Hi, your next challenge is entitled Find the Character's Counterpart Char code. You are to create a function that takes a single character as an argument and returns the char code of its lowercase or uppercase counterpart. So that's a bit of a mouthful. Let's look at the examples. Given that for the string, I should cut this off quick. They're not using strings as the parameter like they show here. These guys made a mistake. Let me show you. The code, they take their parameter as a char. So, excuse that. Uppercase A char code is apparently 65. We could look up that ASCII code, but I'm sure it's right. And lowercase a ASCII code is 97. So, given that, if you call this function we're going to write with capital A as a parameter, it should return the counterpart char code, the counterpart meaning the opposite case. So since we had uppercase A here, we're going to grab lowercase a and return its code. And similarly, for lowercase a, we're going to grab uppercase A's value and return that. So I think the example makes it clear. Let's read the notes. The argument will always be a single character. Okay. Not all inputs will have a counterpart, e.g. numbers, right? There's no uppercase 3 and lowercase 3. In which case, return the input's char code. So you just basically give the input back in that case. So we should definitely take care of that. Let's head over to code. Please pause the video now and come up with a solution. Resume when you're ready. So I want to address that item in the notes first, namely that our input might not be a letter and therefore may not have a counterpart. So, and we don't have to worry about, they made another comment about having one character, but this is sort of enforced with this parameter. It's not a string coming in, so we're good there. Let's say then that if, and we're going to use a handy method here, is letter. Look at this. From the system namespace, char is letter indicates whether a Unicode character is categorized as a Unicode letter. So that's what we want. We have a couple overloads here, and this is nice. We'll use the char one since our input came in that way. But had we been dealing with strings, they conveniently provide you with this, where we could say string, and since a string is an array of characters, we can provide a number, an index of which character we want to pull out of there. So that's nice too. If you want to see the examples, you can go ahead and maybe not, but it's a simple method. Here we go. There you go. Char is letter. So we'll do that. If char is letter symbol, right? That's our input. And we want to know if it's not. I'm going to handle that case first. If it's not a letter, just give it right back to them. Return symbol. And I'll explain this in a minute why this works. It might look weird because we have int here, but for now let's suspend that and continue. So good. If we get beyond this return statement, we know that we're dealing with a letter. So for me, I'm going to make a handy helper method. Static char, I'm going to call it toggle case. I know I'm dealing with letters at this point. So this is just going to be a handy way for me to say, something's a lower letter, flip it to uppercase. If it's uppercase, flip it to lowercase. And I'll make it nice and readable from the point of my program. So, at that point, I can simply say return toggle case symbol, right? If it's upper, it'll go lower and vice versa. Again, this toggle case will return a char, which we'll see will be implicitly converted to an integer. And you might get a feel for that, right? Because the value of it, when we looked in the instructions, was 65 and 97, I think were the two. I mean, they were integer values, right? So, it's a little bit of a sign that might work. So for this will be easy enough. I'm going to do it in one line. If The char class has some other convenient helper methods. If is lower, we'll say, and you can look this up if you'd like, to lower. And we have, I'm sorry, there are is upper that will return booleans to tell you the current case of whatever input you give it. And then we also have these to upper or to lower methods that will do the conversion for us. So I'm going to check first. Let's say char is lower letter. I'm going to use the ternary operator. We've used this before. If it is lower, then we want to give it upper, so we'll say char to upper letter. And otherwise, we'll go lowercase. That means our input was upper, so we need to send it to lower. Okay, and that'll do the conversion for us. It might look like I'm breaking one of my rules here, running off the edge of the screen, but no real text editor is going to be this small. This line is not very long, so I'm not that worried about it. If you don't like how I broke this out into a helper method, you can cut and paste this right in line for the toggle case symbol. I'm going to leave it. That's the way I do things. I make things in really small pieces that I can mix and match however I like. So that's my style. I recommend it. It makes things pretty readable from this case. You can see, hey, if it's not a letter, just give it back. Otherwise, toggle the case. You know, it reads nicely. It almost reads like the instructions we were given, and it makes it pretty obvious if what you're doing isn't in line with whatever instructions you have. So I like that. But anyway, let's make sure this thing works. It said we had to bring in the system namespace, I believe, using system. I think for this char class. We'll run it. Cool, we're good. And then again, the ternary operator, you can kind of think like it's a really condensed form of an if-else statement. So you could imagine this as if char is lower letter, char to upper. You know, in this case, I'd have to return it. And then it's like having an else statement. Since we're doing a return, we wouldn't need an else, but you get the idea. It's the same thing as that. It's just a nice condensed form. So if you thought that was weird, just go to the ternary operator. I'm going to put mine back. And yeah, that should be good for this one. Hit me up with any questions, and thanks for watching.